Okay, so when I left off, I was talking about Moxman and Rudy, future sealed product. I think I'd started mentioning that I myself have 20 boxes of sealed product. 2 boxes each from 10 different sets. Oldest one is Khans of Tarkir. Newest one is Lord of the Rings. Although I didn't plan to invest in any new products, I think Lord of the Rings in the future is going to be in demand. All the boxes I've bought have been draft. The idea is that when I go to resell them, they'll appeal to crackbackers, collectors, and people who want to draft. So I think it should do a wider audience. As an aside, so in the MTG Goldfish article where your man was listing out what he would change, making the recommended upgrades, and again I just followed his advice because I really didn't want to study the whole set. I haven't studied any full Magic set since I can't remember the last one. Probably Amonkhet, because they just started coming so fast and furious. I just didn't have time for it. So nowadays, if I look at a spoiler, it's just to see what the reprints are, Mystic Edition, and so on. So I know what reprints I want for new art. Anyway, he recommended cutting Elvish Piper. I went ahead and kept her in because I want to see how she works. I want to see if she is superfluous or actually get an advantage out of her. So far in the testing, she never came up, and I was able to readily cast any creature I had because it tops out at 5. The highest casting cost creature I have in here is 6 for that Elk and Realm Walkers. Realm Walkers was another cut he recommended. I left it in because I'm thinking, okay, so 6 mana, cast her about what, turn 6, 8 maybe. And if everybody has 3 cards in their hand, I've got 2 opponents, that's a 9/9 for 6. That's not bad. No trample, but it's respectable. Another card from the set he recommended, and this card is very, very nice. Whenever I scry, tap X 9-line permanents, so I can tap down blockers when I go to attack. She only taps down 1, but she counts any other scrying I've done before the combat step. So anyway, back to the sealed product. Not buying any new sealed product because the price has just gotten too high, and I'm no longer interested in the new stuff Wizards is putting out. I know they're adjusting their print runs, as Rudy has said, but I just don't feel like investing in it. I want to concentrate more on my single collections. As far as EDH goes, I'm still working on Arebo, Roar of the World. I keep mixing up his appellation. Arebo, Roar of the World. So, both men agree, Rudy and Moxman, that the horizon for sealed has gotten a lot longer than it used to be. Therefore, for me, it's no longer as interesting as an investment. And the only reason about sealed product is as an investment. My idea was that if I need to sell anything out, if I need to raise money quick, the sealed product I can sacrifice. If I have to, I can sell at a loss to protect my main collections of single cards. If I start having to sell dual lands, if I start having sell my one Mishra's Workshop, that's going to be painful because I don't expect I'd be able to afford another one. Ah, there's the Realm Seekers. Not Realm Walkers, Realm Seekers. So like I was saying, it comes down turn, maybe earlier with all the ramp I've got. But total number of cards in all players' hands. So like I said, if there's 3 players, including myself, and we all have 3 cards, that's a 9-9. More likely, everybody to have 4 cards. So that'd be a 12-12. I'll see how the Realm Seekers work. I do have 3 cards that I bought to include in the deck that I haven't because there weren't any more obvious cuts to make. But anyway, back to the future of finance. So it looks like the reserve list is starting to make a bit of a recovery, no longer as flat as it used to be. Yeah, I got this version of Elrond, Master of Healing. It's the one I like the art on the best, and it's the only card of this style I have in either of my 2 Lord of the Rings EDH decks. Excuse me. So I think reserve list is the way to go if you're looking to invest for future value. Modern, they've proven that they'll just reprint everything to oblivion. I expect Mana Crypt, which is the, as far as I can see, the last card with any real value. I expect it to go the way of Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf one time was 100 euros, maybe a bit more, even for the flat one, the non-foil. And overprinting killed it. Well, overprinting smashed the price, and then when it fell out of the modern metagame, when it became disfavored, it absolutely cratered and hasn't recovered. Liliana the same, Snapcaster Mystic the same. So Mana Crypt, a couple more reprintings, and I don't ever see it falling below 50 euros because there will always be EDH demand for it. Always be some vintage demand for it. So unlike Tarmogoyf, which no longer has the organic demand to absorb the supply, Mana Crypt will never suffer that completely, but the price can still get smashed due to supply exceeding demand at a set price point. And what else? So what else am I talking about? My sealed collection, I guess. So, like I was saying, they're sacrificial. In fact, I've already listed my 2 boxes of Quoria for sale. Just see what kind of interest I get. And they've been listed for a long time, and they're not moving. And I've got the lowest price in Czech Republic. I've got one of the lowest prices in EU on Magic Card Market, and it's just not going anywhere. Other things I'm trying to do is I've got a vintage deck, Vintage Jund, there's the river again, which plays 3 Lilianas, and I've got signed ones in that deck. I've got a mono black deck that also has 3 Lilianas, and both sets of 3 that I think of Planeswalkers typically in most legendary creatures as sets of 3 because I really don't want to be drawing multiple copies. 3 is a good redundancy. I tried that with Svailun in my Merfolk modern deck. Oh, bloody hell. And realized with Svailun, I actually don't care if I have 4 copies because I can always pitch one to Force of Negation, and I do want to get one of her out as quickly as possible. But with Liliana, it's different. 3 is sufficient. Anyway, listed my 3 unsigned Innistrad Lilianas on Magic Card Market at the same price as the foil Dominaria, I believe it's Dominaria Mastered versions. And what's funny to me is the full art foil from Braum and the set foil from, I can't remember her name, but she's Slovak. They're the same price as the flat Innistrad, 17 euros. You can get them reliably for foil Lilianas. That's just amazing. That's how badly the reprinting has hit the game. Trying to squish all the air out of these so they lie flatter. So Rivendell, another foil from the set that fits this deck very, very well. You might have wondered why I have got this set aside. I meant to talk about it. Learn from the Past is a recommended cut. 4 mana instant, target player shuffles his graveyard into the library, draw a card. In some metas, this would be pretty useless. But with the lands I play, there's a lot of them playing graveyard decks. One guy has Muldrotha, another guy has Mimeoplasm. I myself have 2 graveyard decks, and I'm using it as an instant speed graveyard kill. So if the guy playing Muldrotha has filled up his graveyard and he doesn't have any of the ways to protect it in his hand or in play, then I can shuffle everything back in. It's not as permanent as exiling his graveyard with, say, Bojuka Bog, but should still sort the problem out and give me time to deal with it. So, what else? Let me squish more air out of these. And speaking of the reserve list, something I've talked about in another video is what does the reserve list actually mean functionally? When people complain about it, in all honesty, they're only complaining about the 10 dual lands, Gaia's Cradle, possibly Candelabra. There's say 20 cards in the reserve list that people actually care about in the formats of the reserve list matters. Well, format, EDH, Legacy, and Vintage are so small these days. Yeah, we still have some major tournaments in Europe, but nowhere near Modern, nowhere near even Standard. Definitely not on the par with EDH. So really, the reserve list cards that are EDH playable is what people complain about when they're demanding that the reserve list be abolished. They're complaining about the prices. And it's only a small subset of players. The lads I play with, most of them really have no reserve list cards. They don't care about it. They're surprised when I recommend them things like my friend playing Mono Green Omnath. I said, hey, you really should get a Yep My Hollow for this deck. It's down to 50 euros. It's easy inclusion. There's almost no downside to it. Yeah, it produces colorless instead of green, but if it's just one land out of his deck that's doing that, well, I think he's got 3 other colorless mana producers. It's still worth it, but he's not that interested. He spent close to 100 euros for his Ren and 6s for one of his decks, but he doesn't want to spend 50 euros for a Yavimaya Hollow. And I just find that fascinating. And in my limited research on Reddit, mainly, limited study from reading the comments on Rudy, well, more Moxman videos, a lot of players really don't know that the reserve list exists. They really don't know what cards are on it. They really don't care because they started within the last, say, 7 years, maybe 5 years, when these cards have been well out of print. The people they're playing with started about the same time they did, so they hardly ever would see a reserve list card let alone feel the impetus to go out and buy some. So what that means is the reserve list, in my mind, is actually losing a lot of its relevancy. I still believe that Wizards at some point will break it, reprint it. They don't want to leave that money on the table. And they're exhausting their supply of available reprint targets faster than they pump out new ones. Arwen Undomiel, another set foil. Whenever I scry, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. If it was for every card you looked at, that'd be fantastic. As it is, 2 mana for a 2/2 with this ability. She's pretty good. She's pretty good in this deck. It came up a couple of times when I was doing the draw testing, making sure I had the good mix of mana sources for green and blue. And it looks like this video is going to be a part 3. My camera always cuts off about 17 minutes. We're coming up on that fast. So let me just squeeze some more air out. I'll pause this and we'll go to part 3.